Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Podcast. Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio. That's a tongue twister, but we will not be tongue twisted throughout this show. It's another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. Our studio is right next door to my guy Matt Bowers up here on Vets. Check him out. It is state-of-the-art Ford dealership, but check him out at all of his dealerships. They got the best holiday prices, so make sure you go in there today and get yourself a new car, get someone a new car. All right, we got a great show for you guys today. I'm Nick Underhill. That's Mike Triplett. That's Brandon Thomas B. What we got?
Hot topic for the week. Ever since he got injured, it's kind of been a will they, won't they. Rizzy says some things. National media says some things. Let's throw our hat into the ring. First segment presented by Urban South. Should the Saints be keeping the door open for Derek Carr's return?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's very easy for people to say, bench him, move on, start the young guy. But they're kind of in a state of flux right now. And ideally, you can say, like, let's just evaluate Spencer Rattler and then make all our decisions next season. He's hurt, shut him down. But if Derek Carr doesn't want to be shut down, you don't know who your coach is going to be next year. You can't really make that decision of saying, basically, you're going to Derek and saying, don't care about your effort. We're done with you. Stop rehabbing. We're moving on. Like, if you tell him he can't come back, you're telling him he can't come back ever. And I don't know that they've made those decisions yet. So it's easy to sit here and say, like, in this ideal world, well, like, who cares? But you don't really know what direction you're going to go. And Derek Carr could be a drawing card for your next coach, or he might be somebody that you're pushing, that's pushing people away. But until you really know what the next step is for your organization, I think it's a very hard decision to make. In that ideal world, like, you'd like to be able to just say, like, nope, shut it down. We're going to look at Spencer and then we'll figure it out next year. Don't worry about it, man. But, like, that's a hard thing to do, because if you do that, you are you really have to sever ties. And, personally, where the team's at, I kind of feel like it might be time to just kind of move on to that next chapter and to go look for your next quarterback and just to eat the hit and kind of start over. But that's easy for me to say. I can sit here and say it in this podcast studio without actually having ramifications to my actions or changing the path of my franchise in a way that might, before I have all my information. So I think you just kind of keep your information available. You can stall that process if you want to somehow, but I think you just kind of keep all doors open right now. Find out who your next coach is, then make your quarterback decision, because they aren't going to get Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson could say, like, well, like, I want to work with Derek. And now, like, you could be in this weird situation where it becomes impossible to get it. Aaron Glenn could say, well, I can come there, but I don't want to have to, like, keep Derek in place while we figure out this quarterback situation long term. Like, I don't want to walk into a situation where I'm only going to win 3 games and now my whole entire tenure is stained by that, and I lose the locker room, and somebody might want that quarterback there already and then figure out door B. So until you really have all that information, it's really tough to actually go through it in practice and say, we're done with you.
Yeah, look, I've said it a number of times. I believe it. I think Derek Carr is underrated, underappreciated to a certain extent. I don't think the Saints should pay any quarterback $40 million. I don't think they should go out and pick Kirk Cousins up off the scrap heap. I don't think they should want Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield right now. I don't think they should be the highest bidder for Sam Darnold. So this is not specifically Derek Carr isn't the guy. I don't think the Saints should want a quarterback in that tier at that price, period. But this is all about this discourse is all about the disconnect over what Derek Carr is. And I think we all here kind of agree that he's somewhere in that, like, 20th best quarterback in the NFL range. I see a lot. I mean, we talk about it, amongst ourselves, but see a lot on social media where the fans are just like, I know he's not it. I'm done with him. He's terrible. Like, get rid of him. That's not how the Saints feel. One of the things that I love about Darren Rizzi is I feel like he's on Twitter. I feel like he knows what everyone's talking about, and he comes and he confronts those conversations in his press conference. He talked a lot about this yesterday. He said, first of all, I haven't gotten the command from on high. If Mickey Loomis or Mrs. Benson wanted to tell me we're putting him on IR, we're shutting him down, we want to make sure we don't have to pay him next year. He said, I'm aware that's what the Raiders did with Derek Carr a couple years ago. They're not telling me to do that. And as I'm looking at it as a coach, he said, I came in here and I talked about a clean slate when I became head coach. Alvin Kamara got a clean slate. I made him a captain. Cam Jordan got a clean slate. I let him play. Kendre Miller got a clean slate. I let him play more. Said, and since I've taken over, Derek started 4 games and we're 3-1. He's got a 68. He came ready with his stats. 68% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 2 sacks. His quarterback rating's over 103. And so why would I play him? I mean, it's kind of obvious. So like, this is a coach saying like, this is my best quarterback. Like that's what it comes down to. Like that's the decision. And I understand why people want more, and I understand why people want more bang for the buck. But Darren Rizzi is a football coach saying, it's obvious this guy's been my best quarterback. Like that's not, there's no mystery behind that decision, I don't think.
I don't think the fan thing's about where he's viewed or whatever, though. Like, I think it's really about why, even beyond next season, I think it's more about why bring him back and try to win a game when your season's over. I think that's the conversation they're kind of having. Shut him down.
Yeah.
Don't try to win another game. Alvin's hurt. Olave's probably not going to play again. Rashid's done. Taysom's done. Why bring the quarterback back and maybe beat the Raiders? You know, what's the value in that? I think that's the conversation they're kind of having right now. And I think as it pertains to that, to tell him not to come back is telling him he can't ever come back at that point. I think you damage the relationship to a point where it's severed. And the overarching thing here is, what is the 2025 plan? I think the fact that you aren't shutting him down leans towards the thought process that they're probably leaning toward keeping him is their quarterback next year. And again, that can all change. It could be Ben Johnson wants to come here, but he wants nothing to do with Derek Carr, and now you get rid of him. Like, I don't think you have all your information yet. So again, I think it's really hard to make that decision. But shutting him down means you're telling somebody that's working hard to get back that their effort is just, it's kind of F you, get out of here. Like, we don't ever want to see you again. Kick rocks. Like, and I don't think they're willing to do that. And again, as I sit here in this podcast studio and I don't have to make real life decisions, I probably would just move on. Like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done. I'm done with it right now as it kind of stands. But I don't believe they are, and I can't really hold great fault to them for that either. Like, if you want to keep them and Darren Rizzi wants to win games, like Darren Rizzi should want to win games. Yeah. Darren Rizzi wants to make his case. Derek Carr wants to come back and play. You want players who want to come back and play. Like, Alvin's hurt right now. He's trying to find a way back. Like, you want people with that DNA, but it does feel fruitless, and the 2025 season going along this path to me right now feels a little bit fruitless. And again, very easy thing to say, because you could have this roster, have a 2017 type draft, and all of a sudden this roster with 3-4 rookie starters, oh wow, wait, they can actually win this like very bad division next year with Michael Penix and Baker Mayfield and So it's easy to say all these things right now, but to me right now, today, it feels pointless, and I would move on, but I understand why they aren't.
Well, I have 2 quick points. One, all the things you were saying that we don't know about next year. We also mentioned the what if Derek Carr was willing to take a big pay cut too. That's a conversation they could have, that they could say to him, hey, listen, we're only going to pay our next quarterback $15 million. Do you want it? If it's not you, then we're going to go sign someone else for $15 million. That's a conversation they can still have if they don't just end the relationship right now. Second thing, I do think you're right that this is a conversation about it's fruitless to try and win another game this year, but it is the polarizing Derek Carr conversation, because I have not seen my Twitter timeline filled with just put Alvin on IR already. Like, shut him down for the rest of the season. People would like to see, and I haven't seen people saying bench Cam Jordan and play Isaiah Foskey. And
it's worse than that. People are still telling Cam to retire. Like, Cam's definitely still, and that's he's playing well. I would welcome him back next year.
But I just mean, there's a lot of people who want to see Derek Carr go on IR. I think because they want to see the Saints make that decision. We're done with Derek Carr. I don't think there is the same bench Demario Davis for Jalen Ford. Tell Alvin he has to go on IR. Don't let him come back. I haven't even seen people saying don't let Chris Olave come back. That's a little more nuanced, because
to be fair, I definitely I'm in my mentions all day. I'm definitely seeing good. Shut him down. Season's over. No point in coming back. Hey, get well, King. Like, all this stuff. That's go to Cabo. Like, why is Chris trying to come back? Just shut it down. Like, there are people. There is a lot of that out there.
There's both. There's definitely people who don't want to win another game, but there's more Carr. There's more anti-Carr. No doubt. Rhetoric guiding this conversation for sure.
No, there's always going to be noisemakers on both sides of the track. But when I first read this, I don't know if it was too much tunnel vision or short-sightedness, but I initially was just thinking about this season, the end of the Darren Rizzi, or what could be leading into the beginning of the Darren Rizzi era going into next season, because I was like, well, Alvin is trying to come back. Chris, he was out there yesterday. He could have just said, hey, I'm just trying to get all the way right. And so I was like, well, you look at the other quarterbacks who played 0-4. You got to play Tampa Bay to end the season, and I don't doubt anything would happen. But whatever magic could happen in the division, it has to kind of happen there. The Raiders, I know Derek wants to play against them. He wants to, even though it's not the same set of people that booted him out the door, he still wants to stick it to the silver and black, just in general. But I mean, Tampa Bay wrote the book on how to beat the Saints. They did it the worst this year. They hung 51 points on them in the dome. Spencer Rattler, he showed flashes last week. I think he'll continue to show growth and flashes, but who knows what happens to his confidence after Green Bay. I don't know what's going to happen out there. Jake Haener, lights are too bright. Lights are way too bright. Like, I was thinking about that even last week on why I chose Rattler as the person to go with.
Oh, he wanted to flex.
No. Because legit, I was thinking, I legit was thinking, like,
you get credit.
I legit was thinking, like, even for the high school kids that went in there last week for the championship, like, I know in high school when I went, I looked up, I saw the lights, and I was cooked. You know what I mean? I can kind of speak for the whole team. Like, we looked up, we saw the lights, we're like, dog, this is like the dome. This ain't Hanville on a Friday night. This is the Superdome. Like, there's a lot of people, the lights are bright, and that becomes overwhelming, and it was for him. So, I mean, if you're trying to win games and make your case on why you should be the next head coach, yeah, go back to Carr.
You think?
Well,
do you
look,
guys
I thought
think?
you were hold on. I thought you were about to make a different point, and I thought it was going to be a really good point. In that
man.
Rizzy has everybody like fighting to come back from these injuries, and
Yeah,
that
for sure.
that bodes well to him. Like
People want to
like
rock
as
with
a
him.
leader, as a leader, people trying to come back and not shutting it down like that. That's kind of
That's a good
a
point.
thing that's happening right now, and like that kind of really shows a lot of buy-in because it would be very easy to just say I'm done. Like all
Tuck
these
your tail
guys,
and run,
yeah.
and then just be like, and nobody would villainize you. Well, they still probably would, but they wouldn't say, oh, well, you know, you're a coward or whatever, because it's like you're
Well,
legit.
no, you have an injury, but yeah, it'd be very easy. But the messaging like from everybody is like, no, I'm fighting to get back. Like, all right, well, like, and other times I've heard people, you know, gonna shut it down and get ready for next year. Like, yeah.
Real quick, if we're taking Darren Rizzi at face value that Derek Carr is currently his quarterback because he's 3-1. This graphic says they're 0-4 without him. Some disingenuousness to that, but it's not just about record, obviously, when you're evaluating quarterback play. But how close do we think Rattler is to becoming the one that they think gives them the best chance to win? Is he one good performance again? Even if they don't win in Green Bay, if he looks like he did against Washington, do you think Darren Rizzi's mind could be made up to be like, well, actually, I want to keep rolling with Rattler? Like, you think Rattler is close enough to closing that gap to where he could become the guy who actually does give the team the best?
I don't think
chance
there's
to win?
enough runway on the season for Darren Rizzi to feel like he should bet his job on Rattler over Carr. But I think there is a type of performance where it becomes like, all right, you have to keep going with this guy, and you just got to let him keep rolling at this point. Like, but I don't know if you get to the point over the next 3 weeks where it becomes like exceedingly obvious that, okay, like this guy is better. Like if Tom Brady had it like a 2-game runway, like he loses the first game, and that I don't think you get to that point where it's like no. Like Drew Bledsoe's done. I think you need a little bit more runway for it, and I think you need someone that's probably not the interim coach to kind of just completely lean into it, and then otherwise that has to come from above. But I don't fault Rizzi at all for wanting Derek Carr out there. Like, this is where you're at. You don't have a contract beyond the next 3 games. Like, your interests are to win these games. It's not to get it ready for Aaron Glenn next year. Like, that isn't what you should be trying to do.
I'm not gassing up the bus for somebody else to come drive. What I look like putting my card in the machine for that. But another thing too, Derek, if and when he comes back, it's not going to be 100%. He's still going to be nursing his hand. And that oblique injury from earlier this season is probably not 100% either. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Let's roll on to our next segment. Like you mentioned this guy's name earlier, presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Can fantasy managers trust Kendre Miller as a starting running back? Alvin Kamara dealing with the groin injury. Kendre getting some run out there. So can they trust him?
Yeah, Darren Rizzi did fantasy managers a favor by pretty much ruling out Alvin Kamara early in the week, since this is a Monday night game, not pretending that's going to be a game
I know
time
I've pretty
decision.
much rolled out Alvin earlier in the week.
Yeah, but like nobody's pretending like you have to wait till Monday night kickoff. So that does help you choose. Should I start Kendry Miller over Jerome Ford, who's the new Browns starting running back, or like, even established guy, Chuba Hubbard, Bucky Irving and in Tampa. I'm thinking of the division. And I'm a little torn. I think if you really gave Kendre Miller the keys, I think he could be really good for fantasy. If I knew he was going to get 20 touches, two things that make me hesitate. I don't think the Saints are guaranteed to be able to stick with the run game in this game. They might have to abandon that because we think they're going to be down against a team that's a 14-point favorite. And we still don't know exactly where the disconnect is with Clint Kubiak, with coaching on what it is they're not seeing from Kendre to completely let him be on the field the whole time. Rizzi mentioned that Jamal Williams would be part of that committee. He used the word committee a couple times. He said Kendre will be a big part of that committee. So I'm a little bit more of, I'd use him over all your other bad choices, but I don't know if I'd vault him into like top 20 options at running back in fantasy this week.
I think the only reason not to play him or to not trust him would be for the global reasons, whether he's there or not. Like, if you don't trust them to be in the game, like, you wouldn't trust them to be in the game with Alvin either. Like, I don't think that's a Kendre dependent thing. Yeah. But I think in situation, they showed us last week where they're forced to trust Kendre, they're going to trust him. They ran him multiple times on a game-winning drive on had to have it plays, and they were giving him the ball there. So if they're backed into a corner and they have to do it, if they're in the game and able to run the ball, like, I expect them to have 80-some yards. Like, I expect them to have a really good game. I don't think it's anything other than, I don't think it's a Kendre thing. I don't think they aren't going to hand them the ball. That's like, no, we're going to go to Jordan Mims. Like, they aren't going to go to Jordan Mims. They aren't giving the ball to Jamal. Like, they will trust him if they have to. And the only reason not to believe in him, I think, is if you just think they're going to get smoked. And frankly, I think they're going to get smoked.
Yeah, it's true.
I was looking at the running back room yesterday when we were at practice, and I'm like, all right, we know Kendre. I was like, nigga, really, really bare in there. Jamal, he has some good things he does blocking wise. Jordan Mims, forgot all about him. And I was looking for Caboti because he was here throughout the season. He wasn't there, but they fought Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. Hometown guy, but don't know what run he'll get, if any. So Kendre, I mean,
he's gonna get. I mean, if they're running the ball, he's gonna get. He's gonna get 85% of the touches.
And like you said the other day, it'll be a malpractice if he doesn't.
It'll be a malpractice if he doesn't, and they will. I mean, the game-winning drive kind of, they ran him, multiple times on it. So I think they'll go to him. It's not a matter of not trusting him to run the ball. It's like on a third down where they aren't gonna run the ball, and now like Jamal's gonna come in and maybe like once or twice you got to run.
Or if they have their 2-minute offense in there a lot, or if they're like just
throwing. Well, they had him in there in the 2-minute offense. That they were running the hurry up at the end of that game. So I think he's gonna get plenty of. I think he's gonna get plenty of run. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
in Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, Their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Shawbear Insurance, the Earhart agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Shawbear. That's 504-326-6526. Shawbear Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com.
Welcome back into the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. It is now time for our next segment presented by Aaron Rose. Look, covers a bear on offense. Defense, they're still there. But let's go into which matchups matter most in Saints at Packers on Monday Night Football.
Boy, we're already here. Well, I mean, like, let's start at the headliner. We're a day earlier than we normally are. Yeah, I mean, like, it's Jordan Love versus this bad young, well, not bad, but this young, unproven secondary that hasn't played great to this point. The corners really got to show that they can cover. The pass rush needs to show that they can actually get after him. If they allow him to be comfortable in there, they're going to get picked apart. And it's going to be a tough game, I think, overall. I'm not expecting a lot from the secondary. I expect some explosive plays to be allowed within it. They got an extra day to prepare, so whatever issues you've been having with your corners and kind of the consistency, like, these are those money moments where you kind of got to, solve those issues and make sure that you're a little bit more sound.
Yeah, and the other thing, Jordan Love has only been sacked 11 times this whole year, only once over the last 3 games. So this pass rush that has come to life a little bit for the Saints is going to have its work cut out for him, and obviously you don't get a lot of pass rush if you're not leading in a game or if you're trailing in a game. We think all that's going to favor the Packers, which is why I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs, who is one of the hottest running backs in the league. He seems like he's gaining steam as the season goes on, and the Saints' run defense has been pretty lousy all year long. They've shown a little life in run defense the last 2 weeks. I was pretty impressed with what they did against Brian Robinson Jr. last week. They were so against the Giants the week before that. But I mean, if they're just going to be getting a lead or being able to move the chains methodically on a cold weather game, you don't want to have, a bottom 5 run defense like the Saints have, bottom 6 run defense like the Saints have against a top 5 running back like the Packers have.
Rolling back with the secondary and the receiving kind of threat between Jaden Reed, and Christian Watkinson. These are 2 players who have long receptions over 50-plus yards, and they have 12 home run plays this season, 6 touchdowns for Reed and 2 for Watson. So the boys got to be tight back there, because if you're not, they're going to hit you in the mouth.
Yeah, look, I don't think their corners are great. Nixon and Valentine are kind of iffy, but they do have a really good safety duo, McKinney and Williams, probably one of the better safety duos in the league overall, especially McKinney. So I don't know what receivers are going to be able to get open for the Saints this week. They got MVS, but I don't know what's going to happen beyond that. That group is kind of, I mean, they're racing to have a 500-yard receiver this season, and they might not have one. What's he at? 352. MVS is at 352. I mean, 150 yards. He's averaging like 58 a game, 56 a game. I don't know if they're gonna have a 500-yard receiver this season, which is kind of insane. But if they're gonna get there, they need to start it today. But yeah, I mean, you need MVS to step up against these corners. You're gonna have to try to figure out some stuff underneath these safeties and try to fit the ball into some of those spots. It's gonna be a tough game though for Rattler going against those 2 safeties. They're going to be lurking, and I don't think he saw some of that stuff in the last game. I think there were a couple gifts in there, so he definitely needs to be really aware of where those guys are at. And
making that matchup worse, it looks like Jair Alexander is going to come back and play this week for the Packers.
Yeah,
he's missed the last 4 games with a knee injury, but he's back as a full participant in practice Thursday. So that may, and I don't know if he's shadow MVS, but obviously MVS is familiar with playing in Lambeau Field. They're going to obviously make sure he's the guy that doesn't beat him there. Sticking with the Packers defense, this is kind of a rare twist. The Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper won the NFC Defensive Player of the Week before playing the Saints. Usually somebody wins that award the week after they play the Saints. But no, Edgerrin Cooper was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week for the second time this past week. And, you know, that's just going to make life harder for Kendry Miller. Decent pass rush, not like household names, but Rashawn Gary's a pretty good, he leads the way as their edge rusher. So, you know, solid to above average defense. This team is quietly, as we mentioned, I think they've been getting buried by all the Lions and Vikings attention. But as Nick mentioned earlier in the week, the Packers have just as good a chance to come out of the NFC as anyone else in that division.
Yeah, they're 4 losses. Very high quality teams, deep playoff run teams. We talked about just MVS's familiarity. Guy that was drafted up there, but he's from South Florida, but he plays in New Orleans. So getting his body reacclimated, don't know how that's going to be. So I think the weather is actually going to be kind of like matchup.
No question.
Team across the board. Like,
no doubt about it. Yeah.
You think you're used to it until you're up there and you're in it. So I think that's definitely a factor too. But also a little bit of juice in the tank. I seen, of all people, JT Gray. He posted something on his IG about a highlight tape that the Packers had posted. So kind of interesting to see that they come. They're not just laying down. They're not just laying down. They're coming with it.
Speaking of the weather, Blake Groupie is somebody you would normally watch. Can he deal with the weather? This place has some demons for him. He missed a big kick there last year that could have put the Saints in the playoffs if he had made it. But again, same thing we keep talking about. You know, if you're 14-point underdogs, I don't know how much a kicker's going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, he kicked in Notre Dame, so I think he'll be ready for it. But I mean, that's definitely a thing. Like, you can kick a ball and feel like your foot's breaking, like, because it's so cold. I mean, it's just it's a shocking feeling. But he knows how to deal with it. He played up there, so he's used to the cold. But yeah, the special teams in general, catching the ball, Rattler throws with a lot of velocity. Like, that ball is going to hit your hands a little bit different when it's 20 degrees out there. So drop passes could definitely be a thing for a team that's not, you know, super used to that kind of atmosphere. So yeah, weather's definitely a good one.
Even you talk about getting acclimated to, Rizzy was talking about how they've been trying to prepare themselves any way they can by, you know, putting footballs in the freezer and different things like that. So they're trying their best to try to get as close as they can. They practiced outside yesterday. It was a little cool for a little while, then the sun came out. So we'll see how far that goes. That'll take us on into our next segment presented by Shawberry Insurance, the Earhart Agency. If you watched Thursday Night Football last night, you saw Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton go head-to-head against each other. But are the Saints just Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh away from relevance?
Just is carrying a lot of weight there. But those two coaches should be a tiny bit inspiring. I mean, I thought of that when I was watching the game. Like, Denver was in disarray. They took on, you know, all that cap space by cutting Russell Wilson. They picked the 5th quarterback in this year's draft. You know, they couldn't afford to completely restock their talent shelves. Nobody thought Denver had the most talented roster in the league. Like,
they got rid of talent. Yeah.
If you're just looking at their roster last year, you're not thinking, well, here's a sleeping giant. Mm-hmm. And Sean Payton's doing good things there. They got 9 wins. They're going to the playoffs. Same thing with the Chargers, trading away Keenan Allen at the beginning of the year, letting Mike Williams go in free agency. Now they have Justin Herbert. The Saints would give every single thing they have just to have Justin Herbert and then figure out the rest later. But it is a reminder that as bleak as things look, you know, sometimes if you get the right plan, the right direction, the right leadership, they can patch it together and make it work. So no, I don't think they're just a head coach away. But those are two teams that serve a little hope that, you know, you get that hire right. Maybe they can make things fall into place quicker than we're envisioning right now.
Yeah, no doubt. You get the right coach. I mean, a lot can change very quickly. We see it all the time in different places. Like, someone comes in and they turn it around. So that's what the Saints need. They need to get healthy. They need to build out their depth. And I think if you can do all those things, you definitely got a shot, especially in this division. You know, I think the thing Sean's really done well there is that he's won the games he's supposed to win, and you can have a winning record if you just win the games you're supposed to win. They've only beat one team with a winning record all year long. So you kind of, you know, if you just take care of business against the, you know, the Jets, the Raiders, the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Raiders again, Cleveland, and the Colts, like, you can have a team that's in playoff contention by just not losing to being better than the other teams. And then, you know, you can drop some games against, you know, Kansas City, Baltimore, and the Chargers and all the other playoff teams they've lost through this season. But if you just handle business, like, it's not that's kind of how the league is. Like if you just kind of handle business where you're supposed to handle business and you don't have dumb, stupid mistakes and you don't lose the winnable games, you can turn your situation around really quick. And that's the thing. Like when you're a bad team, you hear all season long, well, 4 plays away from, that's what it always is. Every team, like you can watch every well, I don't think we're that far away. We only lost by a touchdown here. Like if we had made this kick and caught this pass and done that, like nobody ever ends the season feeling like, boy, we were ass. Like there's a couple teams. There's a couple teams every year, but like most of them feel like they're kind of in that mix. And if you can be one of the teams that just kind of handles the business you're supposed to, you can flip your fortunes really quick. And it usually takes a good coach to kind of be one of those fortune flippers.
Ooh, you think about it, Rashisha, he doesn't drop that punt.
That's how every year.
The Falcons, then you think you're just gonna keep on.
It's every year.
And going.
Yeah.
Wow. Question, both of y'all. Who knew about the fair catch kit? You knew that was a thing.
I think I've heard about that. If you told me I had to tell you the exact rule before it happened, I might not have remembered the exact rule, but I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of it.
Never heard of it. Never knew that existed. I knew like the older guy. I think he might have won the Heisman.
Doug Flutie?
Yes. That's his name.
I knew that's where you were going.
I knew he did like a punt, a drop kick punt thing. I knew about that, but I didn't know that was even a possibility to happen on the field.
Kind of a stupid rule, actually, but whatever.
It may be outdated. They said the last successful one was in like 75, 76, way before I was even thought about. But I thought about Rizzy. That was the first person I thought about in a situation like that. I said Rizzy would definitely
he would have
know this rule. Yeah. I don't know. Groupie's been. I don't know if he could have made.
Well, the thing that makes the rule so interesting is if you're closer, you just kick a regular field goal. Right. And so you have to be almost like in a specific 10-yard window to make that be like, well, we can't make it if the guy has to be 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. This is our only chance to make it. So that was interesting.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. There's always that one person on your holiday shopping list that's just impossible to find the right gift for. They have everything they want, and there's nothing they need. So what do? This year, head up to Boudreaux's Jewelers on Metairie Road and get that special someone a limited edition Breitling Saints watch. That's right. That's a Breitling watch with the Saints fleur-de-lis right on the face. Only 104 of these were made, so if you're looking for something special, this absolutely meets the mark. Boudreaux's Jewelers has been around since 1933, and they have a great selection of handmade jewelry, watches, and rings. It's the perfect destination for your holiday shopping. Boudreaux's Jewelers at 701 Metairie Road in Metairie. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Hey everyone, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Groomed at the Family Dinner award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code New Orleans for 20% off and free shipping.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back into the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. It is now time for our Martin Wine and Spirits questions of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of handpicked barrels like bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Today's first question is, following up on Bill Barnwell's article, he said that the Cam Jordan extension was the worst move the Saints made in the last 5 years. Do you guys agree?
I don't. Do you have a strong opinion? I mean, not a great extension, and maybe Cam should have been making half that much money. I mean, he's still good for the locker room. I don't think they should have necessarily cut him. They should have paid him about half that much money. That would have saved him, $12 million or something? Sure. Save $12 million. That would have helped. I'm looking at the draft. I mean, I guess the Marcus Davenport pick doesn't count because that was 6 years ago now, where they used 2 first-round picks, but they didn't have a first-round pick in 2019 because of it. And then the big one for me is that massive trade they made to acquire the 2 first-round picks and then trade up again and get Olave. The second one ended up being Trevor Penning. Don't have a first-round pick the next year because of it. They just used so much draft capital to get 2 guys that year, and one of them was a big miss. That's by far number 1 for me.
I think my by far number 1 is letting Trey Hendrickson go. Like, it's the NFL sack leader every single year. That's by far.
Fair.
That's like far and away. That's a franchise changing move, and now you're kind of like chasing your tail on it still to this point, which leads into, the Cam Jordan needing to keep him and all this stuff like that. That's a massive miss for me. I don't even know if I would put yours on the list. I don't know if anything else even really comes like super close to that. That feels like just like a total miscalculation.
The pinning pick for me, going that high and then striking out with an unproven unknown. I know it's the draft, so like a lot of people are unknown. You never know how they're going to be in the league, but going that high for a guy from a small school, nah, bro.
Well, the thing that bothers me about it, I don't mind missing on Trevor Penning. If they had just kept their pick, they would have the 18th pick that year. They probably, might have taken Trevor Penning with that pick. You miss it. We're putting it on the list. Like missing on Peyton Turner is on the list. Mm-hmm. But the thing I don't like is there were years where the Saints were, the Saints had the most talented roster in the league. Like people would do these surveys and say the most talent in the league is in New Orleans. And you could write 46 names in pen on your roster and you knew they were going to make the team. There were a lot of years like that where I'd be like, all right, I don't mind trading up in the draft to get one more piece that really fits because you don't need 10 new rookies this year, whatever. But this is a Saints team that has just been getting older, falling apart. The foundation's been cracking. You've been seeing that. And to just like turn 5 good draft picks into 2 or 3 is just, that's even more costly than missing on Trevor Penning himself. They've become a team that needs to have 6 lottery tickets, so you hope 2 or 3 of them hit. You can't put all your eggs in one basket when you need to rebuild every position on the roster.
Another one to me too, kind of following along the same thread of the Hendrickson one is Zach Bond. You draft him in the 3rd. You don't really find a position for him. It doesn't really work out kind of as quickly as you hope. the next year you have to draft another linebacker in the second round. You don't keep Bond. He leaves. He goes somewhere else. You pay Pete Warren. Like, it just kind of feels like if you had gotten that right, you have another asset that you could have used somewhere else to kind of build out your depth. I think maybe one of the biggest criticisms a DA is maybe the misevaluation of the talent under his own roof is really kind of something that there's a thread there on some of these guys and just kind of missing on them and not seeing it. I mean, that's kind of a knock on him right there.
Don't know what you got until it's gone.
Well, he never knew what he had in like really any of those guys. And I mean, I would say, just in all fairness, I feel like as I look back at it, like that's kind of the thing where it's like, and that's where like the big harm comes is when you're kind of missing on all that stuff. And, even going to Hendrickson, like, are you drafting Foskey then in the second because you have this guy? Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of, if you had known what he was and believed in it and he showed you, I think it kind of changes the course of your whole D line.
Butterfly effect. Another one that I thought about just now too was, since it's 5 years, he's not Hall of Fame eligible yet. The lack of carrying out a succession plan post Drew Brees at quarterback, kind of sort of. I think that's kind of a fumble in a sort of sense. I know supposed to be Jameis, then he got hurt, then Andy Dalton, and then it just all kind of fell apart. Then came back together a little bit from there, but there was no clear. Like Taysom was still thinking he was It was just a lot of weird stuff right there that I think we'll put on that list also.
Yeah, it's a little easier said than done where they were picking. Obviously Mahomes would have fixed everything, but there aren't a ton of names of guys they should have been picking in the teens and 20s that would have obviously solved that. But
people
you're
are
right,
gonna start screaming at their TV like Lamar. Like there's guys.
Lamar.
Guys they could have took in those ranges that have became successful players. To be fair, and the Ravens are one of them. They had Flacco and they made the move to Lamar. Like. Good teams do it. Like, I know everyone says it's hard, but good teams find a way to do it. The Packers have done it twice now because that's just become a priority to them. So, Kansas City did it. Alex Smith was still good. Baltimore did it.
No question.
They had the vision for it. They just never, they let it go. But they got good. Like, that was probably the thing that kind of stopped it, is that they got good and they got close. And what are you going to do? If you get to 17 and it's like, well, we're going to try to replace Drew with this guy at pick 10, and then all of a sudden you become like a freak play away from making the Super Bowl, and then do you prioritize station B or do you keep trying to do you try to go for the trophy while your window's there? And I think that probably kind of knocks it off at the end of that path there. And now as we're sitting here today, it's easy to say, well, like they should have done that instead of Davenport, but like you felt like you were a D end away from winning a Super Bowl, and like it is the wrong pick, and there is all the hindsight analysis, but it's hard for me to kind of fault the motive of their moves at that point. And again, I was Mr. like killing them for not having the Breeze plan when everyone was killing me for saying that they should have a Breeze plan. Starting in 14, you need to draft one. 15, draft one. Why would you do that? It's a wasted pick. That doesn't help. And like I was getting like, killed for it. Yeah. Like I was saying when it wasn't popular. So like I'm not sitting here saying this like to give Sean, Mickey, Jeff, Ireland a pass. Like I think once 17 happened, it becomes very hard for me to sit here and kind of be like, no, 18, 19, 20, like this is what you should have been. By 20, you should have been back into it. But like 18, 19, like being all money in on trying to win, the Super Bowl, like it's hard for me to say that was the wrong course of action.
Let's roll on to our next question. Hot barbershop topic. Any chance Chase is back for the Saints next year? Chase Young.
I've been saying I think he's pricing himself out of New Orleans with this late season run. And I also think they know his warts more than other people. He just feels to me, and this could be an incorrect evaluation, like one of those players that teams will sell themselves on. They'll see the high points, they'll see his age, they see the potential, they'll see the strong finish to this season. And I feel like we could be pretty surprised by how big the number gets, mostly because, 30 teams in the NFL just have monopoly money to play with right now. The salary cap numbers for everyone outside of New Orleans are ridiculous. So does that mean he gets the 5-year $100 million contract, or the 3-year $60 million contract, or $18 million a year? Like I don't know exactly what that number is going to be, but the counterpoint is, if he's not in that top tier, the only kind of guys the Saints can shop for are risk reward guys whose price is a little lower because there's some qualifiers with him. They've already had him in the building. They already know what kind of person he is. They already know what kind of work ethic he is. They know how he fits. So I'm not going to rule it out. if that price tag could stay $15 million or less. But I think this is going to be something another team chases.
My guess is he becomes like the new Clowney, but we'll see. We'll see kind of how it plays out. But I don't know if anyone's going to make like that multi-year commitment to him. I think he's kind of scary to kind of do. But we'll see. I could definitely be wrong. But I could see him falling into that new Clowney thing where if you're a fan of that team and they sign him, you kind of like sell yourself on the upside, and that it kind of ends up being the same. But every now and then there'll probably be like a good season within it. But I kind of see his career trajectory maybe following that. But I don't know. We're going to find out.
Nah, I already around trade deadline time, Baltimore fans were like, "Oh man, if we get Chase Young, like we're there." You know what I mean? We're winning the division, we're winning the Super Bowl. So yeah, you can sell yourself on that quick, but then reality do its thing.
Yeah, everyone sells himself on Clowney too. I mean, and I'm not saying like Chase is a bad player or anything. I think he's a good player. It's just I would be extremely scared to give him guaranteed money beyond like a season. Like I just would. Like the production hasn't quite been there yet, and unfortunately. It could have been, the D-line shift over the final stretch of the season. Maybe the Saints get enough information to where they feel like they kind of know what was wrong at first and what wasn't. And maybe it wasn't, player kind of stifling that production, but it was the way they were doing things. Maybe they get enough information to become comfortable, but I don't know how anybody else really could at that point. But, people do weird things when they need something, and maybe he does become the beneficiary of that.
That'll do it for this edition of NewOrleans.Football. We appreciate y'all for stopping in there today. Look, it's the holiday season. Treat yourself to all of our great sponsors, but also to a subscription to NewOrleans.Football because we're going to Green Bay. We're going to be cold. Or you, the fans. Appreciate y'all. Overtime is next. Catch you next time.